Hey guys, we're back. Remnant Underground. Basically, we had a massive meltdown over here. Thunder, not a lightning storm came by here and knocked us completely out. So it took us like half an hour to get back on and get everything running. So we are going to keep going where we left off. Prophecy number 5. 5 out of 10 we're doing today. So number 5. Michelle was actually reading. So let's see if we can get her to read again. Let's see if we can coax her. Would you like to read again? Huh?
Yes.
Why don't you just start from the beginning?
Okay. Here we go again. Can you hear me?
I don't know.
Yes? Okay, I hear me. Okay, perfect. Okay, guys, sorry about that. We lost our Wi-Fi, but we're going to upload this video for you guys. Okay, so number 5. Some 400 years before crucifixion was invented, both Israel, King David, and the prophet Zechariah described the Messiah's death in words that perfectly depict that mode of execution. Further, they said that the body would be pierced and that none of the bones would be broken, contrary to customary procedure in cases of crucifixion. That's in Psalms and Zechariah, and you can see the chapters and verses there. Again, historians and New Testament writers confirm the fulfillment. Jesus of Nazareth died on a Roman cross, and his extraordinary quick death eliminated the need for the usual breaking of bones. A spear was thrusted into his side to verify that he was indeed dead.
Okay, so this comes with a probability, which we'll get into in a moment. But what we do want to cover is that when this prophecy was said, crucifixion was not being used in the ancient world at all. And that's very significant. If you read the accounts in Psalms 22 and 34 verse 20, Zechariah chapter 12, what you find is that depiction, the depiction of a crucified person and what a crucified person struggles with and what that person goes through. The gasping of breath, the breaking of the legs, things like that. Now with Messiah, nothing was broken, obviously, but the piercing of the side, a lot of very distinct things happened that wouldn't have been known at that time. So it begins to make it very clear that this prophecy is genuine. Now, at the bottom it says, probability of chance fulfillment. Now you have to look this up because this is just extraordinary. 1 in 10 to the 13th. Now, start hitting around 10 to the 9th power. We're talking in the billions. Okay? And by the time you get to the 13th, we're talking trillions to make this actually come to pass. So, that's the chances that there are for this prophecy to actually be fulfilled by a fluke, by random chance. Okay? So, let's keep going. Prophecy number 6. I'll take care of this one. The prophet Isaiah foretold that a conqueror named Cyrus would destroy seemingly impregnable Babylon and subdue Egypt along with most of the rest of the known world. This same man, said Isaiah, would decide to let the Jewish exiles in his territory go free without any payment of ransom. Isaiah 44:23, 45:1, and 45:13. Isaiah made this prophecy 150 years before Cyrus was born. 180 years before Cyrus performed any of these feats, and he did eventually perform them all. And 80 years before the Jews were taken into exile. So here we have Cyrus actually fulfilling that very promise. Again, look at this, the bottom here, the probability is 1 in 10 to the 15th power. We're talking enormously huge numbers for this to ever actually take place. And it's daunting, okay? We've already gone through 6, besides the one that we did last week with the king of Tyre, which was very specific. And always remember, whenever you're talking to somebody about these prophecies, show them the specifics of the prophecy, because no one else can do that. You can't get any soothsayers. You can't. It's always generalities, but in biblical prophecy, it's always exacting. So when God says something, It's not left up for chance. It's not malleable. Okay, there's too many details for it to be any other way than what he says. That's when you can really see the difference between God saying something, Yeshua saying something and revealing something through the Spirit, or it being orchestrated. The orchestration is always very vague and very broad, but when he says something, it's very specific. So let's keep going to number 7. I think Michelle wants to do this one.
Yes. Hooray. Okay. Predicted 732 BC. Mighty Babylon, 196 miles square, was enclosed not only by a moat, but also by a double wall 330 feet high, each part 90 feet thick. It was said by unanimous popular opinion to be indestructible. Yet 2 Bible prophets declared its doom. These prophets further claimed that the ruins would be avoided by travelers, that the city would never again be inhabited, and that its stones would not even be moved for use as building material. Isaiah 13:17 through 22 and Jeremiah 51:26 and 43. Their description is, in fact, the well-documented history of the famous citadel, fulfilled by 538 BC when the Medes took over Babylon, and 275 BC when the Chaldeans forced all the inhabitants to leave. Probability of chance fulfilled? 1 in 10. 9.
1 in 10 to the 9th power. Okay, so we're talking billions here, people. This is ridiculous. We're up to number 7, and they're specific. That's what I want you to see. And what we're doing is we're not even bringing in Messiah's prophecies, which he fulfilled over 300 prophecies from the Old Testament. We're not even talking about those, except for obviously one of the crucifixion, which is a historical event. We're just talking about prophecies that history has already fulfilled. Okay, let's keep going. Number 8, I'll take a shot at this one. The prophet Moses foretold, with some additions by Jeremiah and Yeshua, that the ancient Jewish nation would be conquered twice, and that the people would be carried off as slaves each time. First by the Babylonians from a period of 70 years, and then by a fourth world kingdom, which we know as Rome. The second conqueror, Moses said, would take the Jews captive to Egypt in ships, selling them or giving them away as slaves to all parts of the world. Both of these predictions were fulfilled to the letter. The first in 607 BC and the second in AD 70. That's when the temple was destroyed. God's spokesman said further that the Jews would remain scattered throughout the entire world for many generations, but without becoming assimilated by the people or of the other nations. And that the Jews would one day return to the land of Palestine to re-establish for a second time their nation. That's Deuteronomy 29, Isaiah 11:11 through 13, Jeremiah 25:11, Hosea 4 and 5, and Luke 21:23 through 24. Notice how many people are actually saying this, how many prophets are prophesying this. This prophetic statement swept across 350 years of history to its complete fulfillment in our lifetime. The probability of chance, 1 in 10 to the 20th power. We're talking an astronomical number. One after the other being fulfilled. So you just have to wonder, is this evidence of a higher power knowing a future event and then revealing it to its prophets so that we would understand it?
Coincidence?
I think not! Number 9, and I'm going to let Michelle take this one.
Okay. Jeremiah predicted that despite its fertility and despite the accessibility of its water supply, the land of Edom, today a part of Jordan, would become a barren, uninhabited wasteland. Jeremiah 45:15 through 20, Ezekiel 25:12 through 14. His description accurately tells the history of that now blank region. Probability of chance for fulfillment 1 in 10 to the power of 5.
Yes, to the 5th power. Okay, so, there's a bunch that I didn't even look. There's scripture that says specifically that the world is a sphere, that the world hangs in the universe off of nothing. Those are concepts that the ancient world wouldn't even be able to consider. There's scripture that talks about dinosaurs and that God would wipe out dinosaurs. Yeah. We're not even covering those. There's a bunch more that I'm not even touching. Because there's prophecy upon prophecy that have already been fulfilled in history, and we're not even discussing these. Why? With so much evidence, are we even discussing the fact that does God really exist? But nevertheless, to give more information out there, we're just going to cover one prophecy that has to deal with us today. 10th prophecy. Okay, we're going to break this one down a little bit because this one has to do with you and me, and everyone makes 3. Okay? All right, so let's go to number 10. Perilous times shall come. This is 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 1. But know this, that in the last days hard times shall come. Next. For men shall be lovers of self, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, thankless, wrongdoers. So, okay. Let's just stop there for a minute and let's consider what's going on here, okay? He says in the last days people would be lovers of self.
Me.
That's right. I love me. We look back just into recent history. Turn of the century, the 20th century, 1901, 1902. The way that people were raised was the family structure was built around the parents. The parents had ultimate rule of the house, and they were basically taught to respect and to honor. It wasn't built around the children. But after World War II, you had a huge switch, and everything was built now around children, and they became the center point of the home. Before that, there was a struggle to stay alive, to gather food, stuff like that. But the world became a little bit more accessible, and all of a sudden there wasn't that struggle anymore. People began to focus on their children a lot more, and you had a lot of catering to children. And then when we got into the Generation X, Generation Y not, and Generation Millennial Reign right now, everybody's into themselves. The internet has made it very accessible for us to just look at Facebook, man. You can sit there all day, and you can post and selfies. Anyone? Selfies? I remember I was at a big establishment there. We were printing T-shirts, basically saying selfies. Then we were giving them away like crazy. Lovers of money. It's not only this nation. So we think, oh, the U.S. nation, oh my God, they're so greedy. They're greedy. Go to the Middle East. Those nations have more money than we do, even though a lot of them are at war. Dubai, places like that. Everybody is into the greed. The larger, more sophisticated nations, it's all about what we have and having more. proud, boasters, blasphemers. Today, blasphemy is, you could just check one thing. Television. If you turn on television, you'll hear blasphemous words being said. And before, those things were edited out. Now, it's commonplace. It's acceptable in our culture to blaspheme.
And deliberate.
Yeah. Let's keep going. Next slide. It says, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, fierce, haters of good. Okay, let's take a look at this for a minute. Unloving, that's kind of apparent. Unforgiving, there's always retribution. If you do something wrong, you owe something. Slanders, and think about slandering, is that slandering, it's not only just talking bad about one person, but it's talking bad about authoritative people that shouldn't be degraded or talked about. Slander is considered in the scriptures murder. You're murdering the character of another human being. And so that's what slander really identifies with. And specifically in this scripture, it's talking about slandering those of authority. Without self-control. I don't even want to go into that one. Lack of self-control is very, very evident on the internet. Just go to any other YouTube channel. Fierce. Haters of good. That's another concept that has to be thought about. Haters of good. Now, a while ago, my wife actually did a little bit of research on Sodom and Gomorrah and the concepts of Sodom. And their concepts was one of what was good. If it could be proven bad, it was acceptable. It was acceptable to make something good look bad. And whoever was able to do that, they could profit from it. That's what we have today. You want to add anything to that, honey?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I mean, yeah, what you said.
No, man. Anyways, basically what was good was bad, and what was bad was good, and that was completely acceptable. Let's keep going. It says, betrayers, reckless, puffed up, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim, God. And that kind of depicts our lifestyle today. We are reckless. We are a reckless generation. Just Jackass, the series. she's freaked out where I said that. That's a show it's a show on cable.
Beep.
Yes. Okay. Well, guess what? They brought in a concept of recklessness, of just being disgustingly
donkey-like.
Yes, towards one another, towards themselves. And that's caught on. In fact, the millennial generation is really taken to that, getting popular by being reckless and doing some crazy things. Some of it is really funny, haha, because they didn't get hurt. Some of it is, they get messed up, man.
Highly inappropriate.
Highly. Puffed up. Okay, these are obvious things. I don't even have to go into that. Lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim. If that does not describe our culture today, I don't know what does. And the thing about that is that no other time in history was it like that. You don't find lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of Elohim. You don't. Even if you go into ancient Rome, people say, oh, the Roman Empire was horrible. It was horrible, but everything was surrounding some type of God, honoring a God, submitting themselves to some type of deity. So they were, even though they were self-centered and they really indulged in a lot of things, they actually had a reverence towards gods that even were not their own. That's also why they were drawn so quickly to to the Christian community, because they saw the selflessness. They saw when they died with joy in there. You know, a lot of the martyrs were killed, and when they were killed, they were found not screaming out and with smiles on their faces. It was unheard of at that time. But the Roman Empire themselves, with all that they had, the technology that they had, they still served other deities. But today, we serve self. It is all about us. If there's any other time that this can be proven, there is none. This is it. So let's keep going. I'm just really passionate today. I can't help myself. My goodness. Having a form of reverence but denying its power, and turn away from these. Having a form of reverence. And this is this is kind of the more scary of all of them, because people seem to be godly. Even people that you go to church with. Remember, the scriptures talk about within every congregation, you'll find this in Revelation chapter 2, chapter 3, it talks about there being a remnant. Oh my goodness, here we are. The reason why we're here. But we're underground. This is the cave. Here's the thing. In all communities, there's a remnant. But for the most part, there's a large body of people who have a form of godliness but deny the power of God in their life. They refuse to submit to that power. They refuse to live the way that God really intends us. So what do? They put a show on. They go to church. They look cool. They look, oh my gosh, these are people I want to hang out with, until you actually hang out with them. You don't want to hang out anymore with them. Why? Because they're not the same when they leave. They're someone else. And we've all been there, where we've gone to somewhere and they just turn into another type of person that you didn't expect. These are forms of godliness, but they deny the power that they should be submitting to. And people think that it's God's power in their life. Yes, it is His power in their life, but it's also the power that they should be submitting to. So, let's go on. Next week, does God really exist? Part 3. Now, what I can tell you is this. I wanted to cover prophecy. Prophecy that's been fulfilled. I'm not even touching Revelations. I am not even touching, the prophecies that Messiah fulfilled, over 300 prophecies. I'm not even going into that. Why? Because, first of all, there's just too much. Number 2, people need to know that there's a validity in the scriptures. And it's not just about Messiah, but it's about His Word and everything in His Word. See, we get stuck on Messiah died for you, but you forget that He gave prophecy of His coming, and He gave prophecy that gives validity to His Word. And that Word says this, that God has created all things, that He does exist, and He is actually here to have a relationship with you. So, the next part, next week, I'm going to let the scientists speak for themselves. I'm going to show you a bunch of different evidence that's actually relevant today. That evidence has to do with everything from Darwin's being completely debunked to concepts of the universe, concepts of today that are so clear, that undeniable. At the same time, you're also going to start seeing how there's an agenda behind all of this, a secularization that's taking place, and people are buying into this. And we have more evidence. It takes more faith to believe that He doesn't exist than that He does exist. All right, guys. Sorry for the power outage. We were attacked. The underground was under siege. But nevertheless, we were able to finish the show. Thank you for those of you who were able to stick through that. And thank you for supporting us the way that you guys are. So if you guys believe in what we're doing, if you like what you're seeing, Go to our website, pick up a t-shirt. That always helps us. Anyways, Hugo Hernandez for the Remnant Underground, along with Michelle.
Bye-bye.
And we're out.